And I think we are good to go.
Did we get the crossfade in?
We did get the crossfade in.
Very well.
Too late to go to the restroom if you need to go to the restroom.
Yeah, kind of had to, but it's all right.
All good. So hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We are take two-ing this.
Second try.
Second try.
Thanks for giving me a second chance. You tried to cut it out. The first one, it's getting boring, and you're like, all right.
I'm like, please, Wi-Fi gods, please, please, please stop this. But yeah, sorry about that. That was quite strange.
It happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
We have lots to talk about. There is a lot that's happened since Seattle.
I think so.
Seattle was interesting. How was your time there?
I had fun.
Uh-huh.
We had the best weather I've ever experienced in Seattle.
You know, everyone kept saying to me, every lift I got in, everyone was like, this weather is beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm fucking freezing.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Oh yeah, cheers. It was chilly, but it was nice sleeping at nighttime in the cold.
I know,
love
right?
that.
Me too.
Yeah, that was nice.
Ooh.
We went hiking on Monday.
The photos were beautiful.
Got out of the city, that was great. So I had a good time overall.
Yeah, I never feel like I've got enough time to enjoy any city that I'm in at the moment. But I need to change that over the next 12 months.
Yes.
I feel like having the very fortunate situation where I can go to different cities, whether it be for Elixir or whether it's for Map It Forward, then I should start taking advantage of that, even for half a day.
You got to get out because you're just in the city and all you're around is buildings, and then you leave and you're like, oh, there's other things out here besides just the city.
I feel like I have got into a situation where I work so much that I live in all these really great cities around the world and I never get the opportunity to actually enjoy, like for God's sake, I live in San Diego and...
Have you seen the ocean?
I have seen the ocean twice.
That's good.
Which is shit because I used to live in Bondi and the same situation in Sydney. Like I lived maybe 2 minutes drive from the ocean.
Right.
And I should have been there every single day.
Every day.
But I only got to get there once or twice a week, which was pretty shit.
Yeah. We got in a good habit last summer of just going every available. We had our bikes packed up with beach towels, and we would take a cooler with some beer after work. And
That's
Ellen
fantastic.
and I went down to the beach a lot last summer. It was great. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of your wife.
Yeah, she's
Ellen's
great.
fantastic.
Uh-huh.
She's I can see why you guys work so well. She's so analytical and so on board with what you're doing. We are here in Steady State, this really great new space of yours in Carlsbad. And this has been somewhat of a journey, hasn't it?
Huge journey, yeah. We've had the lease now for a year.
Yeah.
I think we maybe mentioned that a little bit last time.
Uh-huh.
But we had put a lot of work into this. We got really busy at our other cafe right as we signed the lease to kind of get this open, and learned the ropes of opening a cafe and dealing with the city and dealing with the health department and everything that comes along with it.
What was the hardest part of that?
The hardest part was just dealing with the frustration of the lack of organization and dumb people, if you would.
And dumb people?
at our government organizations.
And if any of them are listening to this by some stretch of
well, if they're listening to this, they're not one of the dumb ones.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
But in case they happen to find that out, and Elliot's going to be opening future stores, we're all good. We love you.
Yeah. Great.
Love
the city.
It's been a challenge, right?
Yes. Huge challenge.
What were the challenges?
Like I said, the lack of organization, not knowing exactly what I even needed to do.
Was it like the red tape involved in all of it, or was it simply the disorganized bureaucracy?
Literally disorganization.
So
I went to
example?
submit my plans for the city for just doing tenant improvements. It was a deli. I checked before I signed the lease with the building and planning department, and they said, oh yeah, everything is good to go. You're going to be the same occupancy. It was a deli before, no problem. Sweet G, we knew all about it. We knew it was the old cheese shop for Paradise. And I go and submit my plans, and she says, We don't have a Sweet G on file.
Excuse me?
Yeah, no Sweet G.
How long was it here?
It's been here for, I think, 8 years now, 10 years probably.
Right, so the city didn't have the business on file.
But they did,
Okay.
in planning and development.
But left hand and right hand had no idea
They're
what they were
two
talking
separate
about.
departments.
Wow.
And she said, you're going to have to provide me with a site map indicating that it's Sweet G. And I said, oh, okay, well, can I submit my plans? And she said, yeah, you can leave them. And I paid a fee, and I was like, I thought everything was good. And she sends me an email later that day saying, no, we still need the site plan. You need to get that to us. And I say, okay. And I asked my landlord, do you have a site map plan? He's like, no, the city knows all about it. Like, they knew he has a cheese shop there because he was actually serving liquor here from under his liquor license over there, and he actually got in trouble for it, so the city knew about it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I tell her that we don't need to do that, and I wait
She's like,
7 more
yes,
days.
you do.
I wait 7 more days, maybe 10 more days, and I'm like, hey, just checking up, making sure that our plans are submitted and we're good to go. And she says, no, I'm still waiting on your site plan. So nothing, for 10 days, nothing got done. And that's just one case of probably 15 other things.
You had to
like
move
that.
your toilet as well, right?
I had to move the toilet. That wasn't even a big deal by that time.
6 inches.
6 inches, yeah.
For no, like, actual reason that you can figure out.
Well, we did slide the wall a little bit. We also had to redo all of the handicap railings,
Okay.
the ADA in the restroom, because the laws had changed in the new year, in 2018, even though on our submitted approved plans, they were where they were. So in our brand new tile, we have holes that are caulked over that we still need to replace. So it's just that you just have to learn to control and do the things you can do and not worry about the other things. Like, we could sit there and we could argue, but it's like, let's just
There's
move
no
the
point.
fucking handrails and move on with opening the cafe. Like,
Was it as frustrating at, let me say that differently. Did you manage your frustration deliberately because you didn't want it to be overly dramatic? And
yeah, I would say so. And
you knew it was coming, right?
And the thing is, like, a lot of people that are opening new cafes, they're literal new cafes. We had something over there that was running and was successful already.
Yeah.
So I wasn't too stressed out on getting it. But if we didn't have income or anything running over there, we would have just been bleeding money like there's no tomorrow. And we probably wouldn't have been able to actually make our budget and open.
I find it incredible how much money on top of what you think it's going to be. And no matter how many people I help open cafes, and I was involved in this project, but no matter how many people I help open cafes and tell them, have what you think it's going to cost, double that, and then add at least 50% on top of that.
Yeah.
And it still ends up costing people more. Did you experience that?
Yeah, we did. We were actually pretty within our budget, I would say. I'm lucky I used to actually build houses for 6 years, so
Yep.
I did a lot of the work that our contractors couldn't, myself,
Yeah.
and random things, and knew kind of how to manage them, so we didn't need like a project manager.
Yeah.
I designed everything myself. We didn't need a designer. We didn't need
And
any
the
of that.
place is stunning. Like, if we get a
Thanks.
chance to
You can
turn
look
the
on your
camera around.
Instagram story.
Yeah, on my Instagram, on Map
Lee's
of
or
Forward's,
Map It Forward?
Map It Forward's Instagram stories. Otherwise, Steady State Roasters on
Yeah.
Instagram, and
Yeah.
there's loads of stuff there. But if we do get a chance, I'm going to spin the camera around. The incidental costs, like just the example of getting the final approval from the city or the health department, which was it?
The health, both. We
Right.
needed final for both.
But that last situation that we had, where we had to get one approval. Once we had that, we had to have the very final one
from the health department.
from the health department,
which is the county. Yeah.
and then it was 2 weeks we were waiting, right?
Yep.
And then, but you could pay an extra $460,
And they'd come inspect you after hours if they had time.
Which
any
was no
time of the day,
guarantee.
which is no guarantee, and no one made it. And I asked the lady why. We had our health inspector, actually super nice. She's super easygoing. Told us exactly what we needed to do. We did it, and it was a breeze. It's just they're so backed up that it's 2 to 3 weeks for an appointment.
But you
And I
didn't
asked
get-
her why no one wanted to come after hours, and I was like, for an extra $500, I thought for sure. And she's like, well, we don't get the money. We get time and a half to do it. But we all live down in San Diego, and this is all the way in North County. And the traffic, factoring all that in,
Especially
and they're like,
after
it's not
hours.
worth our time.
No.
Like,
So when you paid that $460,
we didn't pay it.
Oh, you didn't pay
No,
it. That you
they
just
only
paid
paid if they come.
turn up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that delayed everything, which means lucky you had another shop.
Yeah, and we were just
Which
making
is just
coffee
down the
and
road.
building it up more with our customers
Right.
and to open to move for the move. And but if we didn't have a shop, we're just sitting here twiddling our thumbs. What do you do with if you hire all your employees?
Right.
It would have been a month and a half. Even the 2 new employees that we do have, they were waiting patiently for like 4 weeks. But by the time we hired them and we trained, did some training and then opened. So
Let's talk about the 2 new employees. That was a fun process.
yes, we talked about that a little bit last time.
We talked a little bit about
Yeah.
it, but I think the thing cut off right as we were starting to get into that. But let's kind of give some background to how that happened.
Okay.
So we
did a questionnaire.
Yeah.
10 questions. Everyone had to apply through Instagram. And we looked at the questions, looked at your Instagram. I didn't look at the questions. I just looked at your Instagram profiles, pictures, or not your profile pictures, but all your pictures.
of the people who applied. Yeah.
And made my decision from that. And
So for context, for anyone who didn't listen to the last episode, the kinds of questions, and my memory is so shit right now. I don't know why, but
you had a lot of podcasts.
I have. I feel like I don't know what's happened where. And so I'm sorry if anyone that's listening to this and we're repeating ourselves, but it's just good to have it in context. The kinds of questions that we had were pick a number from 0 to 20. What's your 2 favorite music artists?
Who you would have dinner with?
Alive.
If you could, alive. Yeah. Alive.
What's
Cats or
your favorite
dogs?
food? Cats or
Favorite food?
dogs?
Happy Van Winkle or coffee.
Favorite ice cream? Did we
Favorite
do
ice
that
cream?
one?
Yes.
And cats and dogs, we just said that.
Uh-huh.
But they were the kinds of questions, they were personality questions.
Yeah.
Interesting, somebody asked me for a job today.
Me too.
Really?
Yeah.
I just sent them the questions that I used first.
Well, they called and I said, well, you have to go on Instagram and find our old posts, answer our questions, send it over.
Yep.
And he said, well, I'm not on Instagram. Maybe I'll just come in there and talk to somebody. And I said, well, you need to find the questions. You can print them out or email them to us. Our email's on the website. And he said, oh, well, I'll just come in and talk to a manager. And I said, okay.
But it's also someone who's
Sure.
sure, but you're not following the directions.
So what's your name? Because we're probably not going to hire you.
Right. And that's an important part of the filtering process, right?
Right.
Like the whole idea was we want to set out a group of instructions, tell people this is what we want you to do, and test number 1 is can you follow the direction that we're putting out?
Follow the directions.
Yeah. Send us the fucking answers via Instagram.
Yeah.
Then the other great thing doing it via Instagram or social media was what you were just saying, is that you can actually get a footprint that they can't fake that tells you a story about exactly what they're like.
Right. Yeah. Or all their Instagram photos of them waking up to 25 Busch Light cans every morning or something, you know, or are they outside and active and have other passions? Yeah. That's great.
Are there Insta stories of them smoking a bowl?
Right, yeah.
Or of selfies or whatever. Yeah. Like I was specifically filtering out people who, if I looked on their Instagram and of the 9 photos that it shows when you open it up, if there was more than 1 selfie, I wasn't considering them.
Yeah, I wouldn't ever.
It just
ever. Maybe in the future.
Solveig just over there, who's closing up the cafe.
She's like, oh, my Instagram photos are
selfies. All my Instagrams are selfies. Hardly Solveig. Solveig's one of the rock stars that works here and did not have to apply via a whole bunch of questions.
Solveig's someone we wanted to recruit, but she worked at a good cafe at the time, so we didn't bother her. But then she went to another place and then we tried to get her over here.
Is that called poaching?
In a way. But we never actually poached her.
No?
Nope, I never. Nope. I don't.
What are your thoughts on poaching?
Well, I think there's a correct way to do it and an incorrect way to do it.
What's a correct way to poach?
Have one of your employees
do it for you?
Do it for you.
Or your consultant?
Yeah, exactly. That's how you do it.
You send Lee.
Yeah. Send Lee or have them make the connection for you some other way. they look happy there, and I wouldn't really bother them, you know. But if it's someone that looks like they want more out of their job, and are looking for more of a coffee career, they're not happy with the product they're serving, and they want a higher level of service, then you could tell, and they would probably actually approach us if you were to go in there.
Yeah, and there's absolutely a shitty way to poach people.
Yes.
Like,
what's the shitty way?
The shitty way is to have someone turn up and at an espresso machine and say to somebody, I own a cafe and I want you to come and work for me. Here's my business card, give me a call. Like, that's just crude and it's not okay. It's disrespectful to the owner. If you're approaching them, it means that they're pretty good at what they do, and it's just not the right way to do it. You want to make sure that they're unhappy where they are first, and find some things out before you actually try and take them, like what you were saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we've spoken about this. So it's
not too many employees that, or other baristas that I would even want to go do that to locally.
No, we have an interesting situation right now in
I think in 10 years, San Diego is going to be fucking awesome.
Oh, hell yes. I'm very excited.
We were talking about the Dark Horse guys. I brought up or briefly, you know, hey, maybe let's start a cafe owners like board or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, just to build our community more. And he's like, you know, our community actually is like, we're all pretty open and nice and talking. I'm like, started thinking of other cities, and I'm like, yeah, we probably actually do okay with that.
Yeah.
We are all the owners that I know, we're all open and we all share and help each other out as much as we can.
We're very lucky in this area in that, I mean, even when you see the barista community with the throwdowns and whatnot, everyone's really nice. There's not the viciousness that I see in other cities I rarely go to throwdowns, but the throwdowns that I've been invited to judge in other cities, it's like, dang, these people are...
I don't think they realize, a lot of those cafes, that if they're very territorial to their spot.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think they realize if there was 5 cafes in a block, you would then all of a sudden be a hub for specialty coffee. And it would be, if you could keep it like a friendly competition, you could all differentiate yourself in some way, you're just going to be, everything's going to be better.
Everyone wins.
Everyone
I call
wins.
it non-adversarial competitiveness.
Yeah, everyone gets so butthurt sometimes. And
oh yeah, especially with fucking latte art. I don't get it. Like, I would love to see everybody just get excited about the idea that they're coming together to throw down and network, but it's become a little intense.
Yeah. I want to have a competition of some sort that's not a latte art throwdown. Have we talked about this? My briefly.
idea? Yeah.
I have an idea, and you're going to poach it and say it's your idea on the live stream, but go ahead.
Would you like me to go first? Or
Yeah,
would
you
like
go
to
first.
Go
You go first.
So I'm keen to start a coffee festival up here, and I hope somebody starts this idea.
No, that was your idea. That wasn't mine. That's fine. You can have that.
Thanks. I appreciate your willingness to relinquish. But I hope someone steals this idea, and I hope everybody around the world does this, because I think we need to find a way to do competitions that embrace specialty coffee drinkers and have them invested in the process. The idea would be to start a coffee festival. Geez, Solvay. For anyone that's listening on iTunes or wherever and is not watching, we've got almost on iTunes. Okay. We've got Solvay just smashing some group handles down so that she can be a part of the podcast. We hear you, Solvay.
Would you like a microphone?
Well, we can set up another mic if you like, but no need, because they can hear you. You're so loud. I'm kidding. So what I would like to see is I would like to start a small coffee festival in San Diego that involves all the different specialty coffee shops, with a focus of how do we get more people to come to specialty coffee that aren't in specialty coffee. So it's about generating more customers for us and people who are more invested in the quality of coffee experience that they're having, rather than us just being a self-perpetuating kind of demagogue kind of community. How I would like to do that is at a festival kind of environment, and it can start small with, 15 or so shops set up in little, kind of have their own stalls. And how I would like to set it up is have let's say 20 people assigned to each shop when this little competition is going to happen, and have each shop assigned with on a time limit, serving each of those 20 customers. And
That's
then,
a good idea. I like that.
And then let's see, like, it's going to be fun. So, go on.
Barista capsule. Have
What's
you heard
that?
of that? They
No.
make really cool, like modular bars systems. They had a competition like that. I
Oh, did
think.
they really?
Yeah, yeah.
I promise I
It was
did
an
not steal
industry
this off
flow
them.
competition.
Well, it's the same kind of thing.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah, so then
Here's your
you've got,
drink list.
Yeah. Well,
Or you're serving the customers.
exactly.
That's even better.
That's the idea. It's
Yeah.
you're serving 20 customers. Each one orders one beverage, so you have rules. The baristas don't know what they're going to order in the meantime. We randomly assign the customers to the shops, and they order a
And the
beverage.
customers are judges.
Yeah, well, whoever finishes, so the customers get to score their experience, and they come up with a number out of 10 at the end, and then you've got judges that are standing there looking at the whole thing. But given that all the judges are going to be from within the community, you're not allowed to judge someone who you work for.
Right, that makes sense.
So that nobody's, we'd have to be as unbiased as possible. But it's really not about who wins or whatever. It's the idea that the customers are a part of the process, and at the end somebody wins for whatever winning is worth, and then each year everyone's trying to outdo the year before. Everyone gets to choose what they're going to offer. So
that's a good idea.
Now, what's your idea?
We want to have little mini barista and or brewers competitions at our shop.
Ooh,
yeah,
nice.
And also a roasters competition where we provide green coffee and everyone can roast it. Especially if you're home roasters, they're welcome as well. And we'll have a little party and judge it, and there'll be a winner.
This will be at the new roastery?
Or here. Even.
Where will you? Oh, because you've got the little roaster, don't you?
Yeah.
Would you do it on that?
No, they would have to roast it themselves.
So they roast it there, bring it in, then everyone cups it together.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I thought you were going to get them to roast it.
And that'd
here.
take too long.
Yeah, it would.
And you know how that goes.
I really like that idea, so I do know how that goes. We will talk about the national roasting competition in a second. But if you were to get people to roast it at home, bring it in, cup it, and then how would you judge it? Would you
evaluate it blindly, and then maybe have them do a little presentation on what they thought of the coffee and why they roasted it the way they did.
And would you have a spreadsheet that wasn't updated from last year?
No,
so that
well, it'd be a new thing, so we wouldn't
snap.
have to update the spreadsheet.
Hashtag SCA fuck up.
We would just start it from scratch, so the spreadsheet would be up to date. And since it's a competition and people are going to be investing a lot of time and energy into it, we would just make sure it's right.
That's very it's very new for you for this kind of a thing.
Yes.
This is probably a good time to talk about the SCA. I really like that idea, by the way.
Thanks.
It's different. I don't know anybody that's doing that. And there are a lot of home roasters around our area.
There really are. A lot of them came to your workshop too, and I just see they just want to do what we do every day.
Yeah.
That's why I started,
And our industry seems so unattainable for so many. It's intimidating for people who are on the home roasting
and
side
they just
of
want to
things.
know probably if they're doing good or not too, which you are. Every home roaster is doing great.
Yeah.
Because you're having fun.
I feel like we have this elitist kind of bullshit barrier going on in our industry that I'm personally working very hard with Map It Forward to kind of break down.
And the barrier is created because those people don't actually know anything or much themselves, so they create a barrier.
It's an insecurity.
A bullshit barrier. It's an insecurity thing that I do know more than you, even though they may not. Who really cares?
It's something that has existed ever since I've been in coffee. So 15 years ago it existed, and I don't know that it's necessarily just.
It exists in every industry.
Yeah, exactly. It's I felt it more in this industry than I did in the corporate world.
Yeah. Because there's so much we don't even know about coffee ourselves. Like, look what Scott and Matt are talking about, in that they think 35% extraction is the optimal or the obtainable goal, and years from now that we can extract and get good flavor from. And it's like, oh, okay. we're still down here at 22.
And I think, unfortunately, people like Scott and Matt are talking about stuff that most people can't get their heads around because they are missing so much of the story. And there are people that are talking about, you know, when people are using language, and I have first-hand access to this data that I'm about to talk about because we do pre-seminar surveys to map it forward. And one of the questions, you know, a couple of the questions are, so, what's your title, what's your name, what's your title, and how long have you been in coffee? So people who are calling themselves master roasters after being in specialty coffee or roasting coffee for 6 months. And so great to call yourself a roaster, but Scott wouldn't even call himself a master roaster, and he's been doing it for 25 years.
No, definitely. Yeah.
And like he's written
and he's roasted
books.
the most machines, roasted on the most machines than anyone probably, right?
No, easily.
Yeah.
Easily. He travels all over the world doing it. And hey, I'm not a Scott Rayo advocate or ambassador or anything like that. I just happen to be.
I'm just kidding.
I happen to respect the hell out of him because he legit knows more than anybody I've ever met in coffee. And he can back it up. I've never been able to ask him a single question where he faked the answer. If he didn't know the answer to it, he would just be like, I don't know.
Yeah, what do you know?
Shocking. The person who knows more, you can have mine and I'll have yours.
Switch it up.
That's a 23, right?
Yes. Yeah, so...
Dude, I'm feeling very
screw the
buzzed
elitist.
right now. Well, yeah, and it's, I mean, I guess this is a good time to talk about some stuff that happened in Seattle last week that broke the internet.
Oh, yes. From our friend. Well, he's your friend.
He's your friend. Yes, he's everyone's friend.
Yeah.
So there was an interesting thing that happened. What happened to be there when it happened, although we had no idea what was evolving. So we're referring to that Scott Rayo post about La Mazzocco.
We get there.
We were up together.
I saw some local San Diego friends, roasters, Dark Horse and Lofty, Matt and Brian and all those guys, and I went and talked to them.
We got there and describe the scene.
Well, we specifically didn't finish our coffees at the shop that we really loved, the General Porpoise.
Yep. Shout out to the guys from General Porpoise because that place is
awesome.
Stunning.
Yes. Best cappuccinos I've had in a while from there. They were great. Customer service was awesome. And we're like, oh, let's go get some George Howe coffee.
We were jazzed about
Super
that.
jazzed.
Yeah.
I get there and I hear from those guys that the wait to order is 40 minutes. And I was like, I really don't have anything else to do today out of the fucking competition that I didn't really want to be in. Can't go hiking yet. We don't have a car. So I'll stand in line for 40 minutes.
In line for 40 minutes.
And then I hear that it's another 30 minutes after you order to get a pour over. And then I was like, I don't know if I can do that.
Why? So tell me why you don't think you can do that.
I already stand on my feet enough in a cafe, and this was a vacation.
So do you think that it's a reasonable wait time?
That is not reasonable. I'm sorry, no.
So
I don't think standing in line for 10 minutes. Have you ever gone out to get food and they say there's an hour wait and you start waiting, you're like, I'll suss it out. And then like 20 minutes into it, I'm like, I'm not fucking waiting this long to go maybe go put your name in and go get a drink somewhere and come back.
I do that, but I will not stay. I will not wait
just
for
stand
food.
there. My time fuse is short when it comes to just standing there and I'm sorry, it's just food and it's just I love food and I love coffee and I love quality everything, but at the end I just need to eat so I can
keep
drink
moving.
So I can just keep moving.
Right, but you know, if I'm somewhere where I really want to have the experience, I will wait, but not that long.
Yeah.
And I don't know that any customer should have to wait that long. Particularly, look, you hear of like crazy fucking wait times. Like when Blue Bottle opened up in Japan. It was a 6-hour wait to get.
If I ever open a shop in Japan, I'm just gonna hire 100 people to come stand in line for a little bit, because then everybody else will just come stand in line as well, because they just see the line and that's what you do.
Bye guys.
See you guys.
Thanks for not being too loud.
Can you lock it? Can you lock it on your way out? Thanks.
So look, I mean, we walked in, Scott and James and Mark were sitting there, and we knew a few people in there. We were there with your wife Ellen as well, and I walked up to Scott and tasted what they were tasting, and no disrespect to anyone who made those coffees, but I can tell you that what Scott's review was about those coffees was bang on to my palate. I looked at that place and I thought, either these guys are, one of two things was happening, because it was a shit show. There was people
there was
everywhere.
a lot of people there.
There was a lot of people there. But there being a line that in any place, whether it's a hamburger shop that sells 2,000 hamburgers a day, or it's a coffee shop that's selling 2,000 espressos a day, or it's an espresso shop, a coffee shop that's selling 100 espressos a day, there being a line doesn't necessarily mean that they are as busy as they look. It could mean that they're not executing as well as they need to be.
Their systems aren't in place, the flow's not set up. It could be just moving the line, the cash register girl just talking too much, but they do want to come for the experience. Maybe everyone's asking a lot of questions too. I'm not sure, I did not wait in the line.
Because you had some hookups that were already in the line.
Yeah.
And they. But from what we witnessed, no disrespect to the Lamazocco crew.
No, none at all.
And no disrespect to George Howe.
No.
I looked at Scott's post and I thought, so I looked at his post after the fact. I had taken a look around, I had seen that there were 2 pour-overs going and that there wasn't, look, coming from a high volume coffee city, Sydney, where high volume is just what we do every single day. I looked at this and thought, this could have been executed better, and when I read Scott's post, he was exactly on the money.
Yeah, I think his post, I've known Scott for a while, and like we said before, we have him as a consultant, and I think the post was to open up a conversation about how could the system be better? What are the systems in your cafe? Our cafe is not busy yet. Busy for us, but not real busy.
It's not high volume yet. I mean, we're working to get it there.
I used to sell water at Coachella. We had 26 water stands, and we would sell 2 tractor trailer loads of pallets of water in 2 days.
That's high volume.
I know about high volume,
Exactly.
how to do the things, and I understand the systems from other shops. So we're slowly building.
Yep.
So I would have liked to learn more what other people thought could have been done better to better serve everyone. Even, you know, have a conversation. I don't think people should have taken it as an attack. Scott's only told me 1 coffee I think I've sent him out of 4 or 5 was decent. And that was the best compliment I think I've ever gotten. And people, you can't be hurt when people tell you, my best friends and mentors and everyone that I've had here are the people who tell me when I'm not doing good.
People who tell you what you need to hear rather than what you want to hear.
Yes, exactly. Hey, Elliot, my friend Dave, that Kambata, that Ethiopian that we got a bag, that is roasty. I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's been tasting good. Like before this batch, I haven't tried this batch. Hey, Kyle, can you make me a pour over? Tried it. I'm like, fuck, it's roasty.
Because he's giving you a new perspective, right?
Yeah, let's pull it off. I look at the roast curve. It had a little flick at the end of that batch, and I was like, oh, shit, I didn't catch that, didn't QC it. Thanks for letting me know.
And those people, to my mind anyway, in both of my businesses, in Elixir and in Map It Forward, the people who are prepared to tell me the things I can improve on, they're my allies. Like, they're the people who have my best interests at heart.
Exactly.
And I mean, you have to temper it. You have to look at someone who's coming and saying, and they're giving me feedback based on not having an agenda of their own. So if somebody's telling me that Elixir's shit, and they have never tasted it before, well, fuck you very much. And I've had many people do that.
I'm sure.
come from just an ego perspective and they're just looking to pick a fight with me so that they can tell other people, oh, I picked a fight with Lisa Farr.
Right.
But we're not talking about those people. We're talking about the people who genuinely want to see you succeed.
Right.
And genuinely want to see coffee get better.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of people like that. And he is one of them. Scott is one of them. He definitely does not have... what the fuck is he going to gain from saying what he said to La Marzocco? He doesn't own any shares in La Marzocco or in George Howe.
No.
He doesn't have... he and George are great friends. So he doesn't stand to lose... like, he stands to lose from saying what he said. I just don't understand. I mean, the attacks that he was getting...
yeah. It's a bummer.
Were not okay.
It's exactly why I stay away from any kind of forums of anything. I used to make surfboards, and you would go into these surfboard shaping forums, these home shaper forums, and people would be like, that board sucks, this board sucks, and they would start attacking other shapers. Turns out they've never even ride the surfboard.
Wow. That's what I'm talking about.
And I'm like, I learned like 10 years ago to just stay away from that shit.
I had to do the same thing. I had to do the same thing when it came to Elixir. I was, you know, we did not do any press for the fact that I don't know what, particularly the males were the ones that were attacking me personally. And initially when we started getting hammered, I would just ask people like, have you tasted it?
Yeah.
I know you haven't tasted it, you're in Europe and you're talking about how shit it is.
Yeah.
And then I just, like you, I had to stay off it because it was soul destroying.
It's just, I think people should look at that post, take it more. He is an industry professional and he wasn't trying to beat people up. And it wasn't a Yelp review. It wasn't a backhanded thing. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't a 1-star Yelp review that we get for opening a new cafe and not having any seating, that shit like that.
Right.
That's the kind of shit that sucks, but
he's not somebody who doesn't know anything about this.
He knows some stuff.
He's super seasoned. He's had one of the busiest cafes in America. And I think what works against him is that people don't quite know all this stuff about him. He's literally made millions of coffees.
Yeah.
And has been involved in, he's cupped so much, he's roasted on so many different machines, and I'm sure that there are a bunch of assholes out there that are like, so Lee's a big advocate of Scott Rayo.
Right.
I'm an advocate of what Scott Rayo stands for, which is how do we get coffee better everywhere in the world? How do we turn professionals into, I mean, my brand is all about how do we professionalize the industry?
Yeah, maybe that wasn't the best way to go about it.
I agree with you. And he agrees with you after the fact. It's part of his.
But I said don't take it.
process.
I told him to not take it down. I think he should leave it up.
Yeah, I said the same thing.
Maybe next time it'll open. Maybe he didn't lose too many followers or friends or potential friends.
I don't know that he cares.
Yeah, I don't think he does either. But maybe we can learn something from it in the future too. Yeah,
and so can he. You know, he and I have talked a lot about it. Hopefully, if we get the chance, he and I are going to have a conversation here on the podcast about it when both our schedules line up, whether that's sometime in the near future or some time down the track. He'll be on this podcast a lot, but I hope that we get the opportunity to unpack it so that people can see this was not a malicious thing. He was trying to stimulate a conversation, and he's new to Instagram, relatively new to social media. This is not, I mean, I had to push him for a couple of years to get a blog and to get social media.
Yeah.
And
the Rayo tips are great. The daily coffee tips.
And that was him. He came up with that idea.
Kind of bummed because like we pay him for that information, and now he's just giving it out all for free.
Right. Well, that was the other part of it. Was people who were attacking him are also the people who send him private messages and say, hey, so what do you think about this and what do you think about that? And he gives people hours of his time for free, and they're the same people who are bagging him out, saying that he has no right to post things like this. Well, you can't have it both ways. I would really like to see people not follow the mob.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot.
And yeah, he motivates me to give him a coffee that he says, hey Elliot, this is really good. And that's something that every day makes me try to want to make better coffee.
And
we need more people like that in our industry.
Who are not doing it for any reason other than he wants to see you be the best that you can be.
Yeah, I mean, if I know he likes it, then I know my customers probably like it too, you know? And that's where it comes down. I'm not looking for approval or anything like that. And I could literally care two shits if he likes the coffee or not, as long as everyone here is happy. But going for that just gives me momentum and energy to make things better, you know? Keep trying, keep questioning things, especially Matt as well, you know?
Oh, yeah.
We learned a lot of stuff from Matt over the years too. And our first 2 years, we ground every espresso in a flat burr Ditting grinder.
Thank you, Matt.
Not even an EK43.
Matt, for some reason right now, got very excited and he didn't understand why. But, you know, I find that the actual professionals in our industry are so generous with their time.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're normal. They're just people. It's just coffee. Sorry. We're not saving too many lives. We're saving I have a doctor that comes in and he tells me we are actually saving lives because
and why does he think
caffeine stimulates us and we're getting in less car crashes. We're helping avoid car crashes because people are more awake while they're driving, as long as other health benefits. So
fantastic.
We are actually helping save lives.
Yeah, and apparently has some really positive effects on gut bacteria.
Yes, that's not I haven't reached that level of, I need to understand other things first before I get there.
Dude, I feel like whenever somebody says to me, when are you going to get into a relationship? I'm like, I don't have time. I have so much to learn about the things I want to learn about. Right. I don't have time to be in a relationship right now. It's just not going to be okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the roasting comp because that was a very interesting
It takes about 5 seconds to explain. We didn't do well.
But the comp in general, because I was down there.
Let's backtrack. Can we talk about the Brewers Cup real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Our wonderful employee Ashley did the Brewers Cup in New Orleans, the qualifiers. You used lot 236 from 90 plus with a great overwhelming response. Did not proceed on to finals, to nationals, as the coffee was too complex and she needed to name more tasting notes, as well as two of the judges.
That coffee was...
It's
ridiculous,
fucking amazing.
Like there was no way she was ever going to be able
Scott Rael drank a natural and liked it from that coffee. Not
only did he drink that, you were gracious enough to give me that coffee.
Right.
I elixified some of it and sent what I didn't elixify to him.
Right.
And he literally said, "Thanks for sending me the first interesting coffee I've had in a long time."
Yes. So thank you, Joseph and George
shout
and
out
90 Plus crew.
Shout out to the guys from 90 Plus because that was of the coffees I've tasted in the last 3 years. That was for real a mindfuck.
Yes, it was a memorable cup of coffee.
Absolutely, it's one of those ones that you remember the time when you tasted lot 236.
Right. So we used that in the competition. We got deducted points because it was too complex and we needed to name more than 5 tasting notes.
What is that about?
One of the judges did not get berries. No tasting note of berries. The other one didn't
know how you couldn't
didn't
taste
get
berries
mango and maybe another tasting note. And that just kind of goes to show, fucking love the volunteers and the judges and all that. They do that shit for free. Yeah,
shout out to everyone that volunteers because that is
You're trying to make it better and we appreciate it, but we need more, in the US at least. We can actually trace it all back to things you've talked about before, and it's just baristas that most of our baristas here in the US are doing it part-time while they're in college, and it starts in the cafes, in the baristas, and building professional baristas from there to be judges. And that's why the USA is so far behind from Australia and other parts of the world.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I feel like in 10 years from now, our judges, it's going to take a long time for the judges to get calibrated and to understand what they're doing. I wouldn't want the job. That kind of pressure, I feel like you'd be fucking with somebody's future doing that. And that's why for whatever it's worth, I feel like we need to find a training program that's actually making sure that these people are qualified.
Yes.
Look at what happened in the roasting competition for Mark from Onyx last year. Like it was a game changer for their brand.
Yeah. Oh, huge. So going back to the Brewers Cup.
Yep. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I forget her name, from George Howe. Awesome person.
Jen?
She had a great Kenya coffee at New Orleans. She won the Brewers Cup with Lot 236.
Wow.
Because George Howe works with 90 Plus as well.
Yeah. He gets some incredible coffees.
Oh, awesome. And then Jacob from Bird Rock, locally, placed 10th with, I don't think it was Lot 236, I think it was Lot 203. Nonetheless amazing. Didn't do well because it was too complex.
So let's dissect that a little bit.
He got 10th, I think.
So what did she do different?
I haven't watched any of the performances or anything yet. I have no idea. I haven't followed up. These are just facts that I've heard.
I want to dissect that, and so that I'm sure, so that I can make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So somebody wins with Lot 236. Nationals.
Yes.
But in the
probably deserved to win. It was probably awesome. She's a super awesome human, and George Howe roasts great coffee. So I'm pretty sure it was all
absolutely legit and whatnot. Yeah. But and this, so what we're saying is that because in the regionals the judges aren't at the same level perhaps as they are in the nationals, because those competitions are taken a little more seriously. Mm-hmm. If we've got people at the regional level saying the coffees you're using are too complex, and then somebody goes on with the same coffee to win the nationals, there's a disconnect there that's fundamentally broken in the competition system.
Yes.
Right? That's what we're saying.
100%.
I couldn't agree more. How do we fix that?
I really don't know. I think we fix it by elevating the level of baristas in our cafe and training, and spend more time on your cafe and your employees. And I think it starts there. And instead of opening up 10 stores in a year, open up one every 5 years and make it the best fucking thing in the area, and make your employees the best that you can.
And how does that translate into why the competitions will?
Because then we'll have more experienced, talented, knowledgeable baristas, more coffee professionals. And
so they're the people who then go and volunteer.
And judge. And maybe the SCA kicks down some money for their time. I'd love to see that.
That'll never happen. I wish it would, but it won't.
They mentioned to me at New Orleans for me to be a judge in the Roasters Comp next year. And I said I'd like to win first. And then I couldn't imagine going there and doing that 10 hours a day for 3 days of my time. My time's valuable.
Own businesses now.
Yeah, my own business. And
what needs to change in the rules, though? I feel like it's great if we can, I mean, this is a long-term conversation, and I guess it's a lifelong conversation for people in the competition circuit. And not just in the Brewers Cup, it's the Brewers Cup, it's the barista competition, it's the roasting competition, because that seemed like it was quite the clusterfuck as well.
Yep.
I was there for watching some of that, but I feel like we're evolving as a community here in the US, trying to understand how the rules that need to progress, how we communicate. Well, when I say how we communicate, I don't know who the we is. So is it the organizations? Is it the competitors? Is it the judges? Is it everybody? Should there be a kind of a course that you have to go through, like a long-term course that proves that you have the skills? Should you have to be a Q grader, and should you have to go through not just a calibration that goes for 10 hours or whatever?
They calibrate the day before for like 15 minutes, I think.
So do we then have a professional judging panel that's actually what their job is? So SCA employs a professional team. They pay the professional team, and they go around, and the regionals happen across a certain amount of time in the year. They go and travel and judge those things, so that it's the same judges that are judging everything. Mm-hmm. And then those same judges then do the nationals. And that, I mean, that's a potential, I mean, I don't even know if that's plausible,
right.
but I think it gets us a little bit closer to what we're trying to see happen.
It definitely would, and I guess it just depends on if we want to be a contender in the worlds, or we just want to keep kicking along and having fun.
And how seriously we want to present the opportunities for the people that are actually showing up to compete.
Because people are putting a lot of time and money into this stuff.
Well, we've got to remember a lot of, like, especially for all of them, roasters, baristas, and people entering the Brewers Cup. These are people who don't earn a lot of money.
No, yeah.
And
which
if they're
goes back to the beginning thing.
Right.
Coffee professionals and
us trying to elevate that standard.
Yes.
But the idea that, especially also the companies that are, if the barista's not paying for it themselves, which if they are, they have to save for so long to be able to afford that shit, because it's not cheap.
And if you're a company, a business, and your baristas are going to the competition and they're doing it under your business name, you better fucking pay for their way.
Well, right. The number of
if you're
people,
independent, sure.
Fine. And the person who won the barista comp this year, Cole,
yeah,
he's independent.
Yeah.
I don't know if he works for anyone.
I wonder if he wants a job in San Diego.
Hey Cole, if you do want a job,
San
shout
Diego
it
has
out.
the best weather around. If you like surfing, you can go do that. You can go mountain biking.
There are 10 questions on Instagram. You just have to answer
them. If you
them.
want to rollerblade, I'm not sure. Whatever suits your
Great
boat.
weather. My favorite thing was people kept telling me in Seattle how great the weather was, and I was like, "You're fucking kidding! I've got a coat on. This is our winter."
Yeah.
But Cole, if you're interested, check it out. Hit Elliot up. But yeah, it's that kind of thing where we have baristas wanting to invest because they feel that this is important.
I wonder if they feel that it's important, or they're looking for validation in what they're doing.
I personally think that it's the latter of what you're saying. I've never been a fan of people competing in this way because it's not an accurate representation of what we do.
It's why I first did the competition last year.
Really?
Yeah.
You could have just asked me.
I didn't know you yet.
Correct.
I was like, I don't even know if I'm how do I get my coffee approved by people?
Right.
Is what I was basically looking for. So
because you were relatively new into the industry, right?
Still
so
very
you're
new.
a pro cycler.
Yeah, pro cyclist, yeah.
And then you came into coffee because you loved coffee. Opened up down the road from here on State Street. Bootstrapped. You had a tiny little 1 kilo roaster.
2 kilo.
2 kilo roaster. Sorry, dude. 2 kilo roaster. And I thought it was a toy the first time I came into your shop.
I know, yeah. You told me a few times.
But now you're way more legit.
Yeah.
Not that you weren't legit, because I tasted your coffee and thought, this guy is fucking legit.
Yeah, it just takes time to build your customer base and your brand. And
yeah. And then, like so many people, you thought the way that I'm going to know whether my coffee is great is I'll enter this competition,
right.
And if I win, then I'll know my coffee is good.
Right.
Which is not true at all.
Not true at all, because we actually got second in regionals last year.
Which doesn't mean that your coffee wasn't good.
Our coffee actually didn't score too good, but I did so good in the fucking presentation because I was a barista as well as a roaster, so I was just like, I can talk all day about coffee and what we're doing here. Sure, no problem, you know.
Which is really interesting, because if your roasting isn't so great and your presentation is great, you can still turn out to win the competition.
This year was a lot more tough. I think actually the competition's gotten higher a little bit between last year and this year. Because New Orleans, I actually did really good on the roast, scored really high, and scored really high on the presentation and got third. So and all of our, like the top 5 of us were within a point or two of the blind scoring of the coffee. So that's all pretty similar.
That statement is encouraging. So when you say that the competition's gotten tougher and it's better than it was last year, I think that's the point of competition, right?
How do we make it better?
But what do we mean by it's gotten better? Like what do you mean that people's
the competitors
roasting?
Themselves, I think. Maybe we've attracted. I'm not even sure if it's that.
So it's not necessarily.
You get to taste some people's coffee, but it's so spread out. You don't hang out at the event all day and you taste so much coffee anyway. So
yeah.
I'm not.
So what do you mean by? Because I think this is a conversation that's so important. What are we trying to get out of these competitions? Because as a person, like I'm consulting to you guys a lot, and one of your questions to me was, should we enter this competition or should we just not bother? And I said to you, absolutely enter the competition, not because it matters it's not going to tell you whether you're roasting great coffee or not. Your customers tell you that, but because if you win, it's great for your brand.
Right.
I don't know that that's necessarily a great reason to have a competition, right? Like we have cycling championships and we have Olympics and we do all these kinds of things to see who's the best in the world at certain things. Whoever wins the World Barista competition or the nationals for the roasting, is it actually telling us that anyone is particularly the best at anything?
I don't think it is. No. I think it tells you that they hit what the judges were asking or looking for
at that
on
particular
that particular
moment
day.
in time.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. That's exactly what it means.
Which is that, and I don't know that that's particularly healthy for our industry. I think it appeals to an element in our industry which is ego-laden. And I think these things are great from a networking perspective. I think it's great because competitors, particularly in the barista competition, when in a time that, and Jared and I talked about this quite a lot in the workshop that we had last week about mapping a career as a barista, he said that the best thing about entering those things is it really dialed him in on his bar flow and
That's
the
good.
things he had to focus on, and grind size, and how to steam milk properly, and how to be clean, and all of these things. But that's because the reason that was so helpful to him is because that's not actually the level of professionalism that's expected at the machine. We're not there yet. As an industry here in the States, we're starting to get there, but that level of professionalism is absolutely expected at the machine in Australia.
Exactly, every day.
And the same, as far as I can see, in places like the Nordic countries and places where specialty coffee is a big deal.
Right.
We're not there in America, so I can understand why these competitions are helpful from that perspective here in the States.
Because it does get you to drill it down into something, and you do learn something. I've always learned something. Maybe less this one than just because I didn't try as hard.
You had a few
I'm
things
not making
going on, mate.
an excuse at all for not doing well by any means, but
you literally opened the new shop the week
Saturday and flew to Seattle Wednesday. So
yeah,
and we were fucking busy while I was gone too,
right.
So, which is great. So
it's
team.
Awesome. Go steady state. But I mean, I'm not shitting on competition. That's not what I'm saying. I feel like if we're going to go to the effort of having a competition, I would love to see it be something that actually elevates the quality of what we're making happen as an industry. And I'm not sure that we're there yet. I'm not sure that the roasters competition is actually telling us anything about the quality of the roasters.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm going to cop a whole bunch of shit about this.
I don't think it really is, because it can't. I know I haven't tried all the roasters' coffee, but I know some of the roasters there, and I've tried their coffee, and it's really good. They don't do good in the competition.
Right, and your version of good might be different to my version of good based on whether you know what you're tasting, or even I fucking know what I'm tasting, or I don't know what the judges know about roasting.
Exactly.
Or I don't know how, if they're super tasters, or if they have, if they've got shitty palates or whatever. These are people who were available to volunteer and show up.
Yep.
And this is why I think if we had a professional judging assembly who were paid to do what they have to judge these competitions, we would just be doing the competitors a greater service.
Yeah, definitely.
And it may even be one of those things where what we start doing is, start charging a greater fee.
Yeah. To
do that. I think as a competitor, you would have more people willing to enter. Not that there's a shortage, but you would, if the fee that the competitors paid a majority of that went directly to the salary of the people who were judging. I think we would have much more investment from people wanting to enter these competitions.
Right.
And we would be able to guarantee that the people who were working full-time on these competitions were working around the clock or all year round, were working to improve the quality of the outcome of the competitions.
Yeah.
But I don't see that happening right now.
Who's going to head that up? Who's going to spearhead that?
Well, it would need to be something.
Someone
I
from
hear
the
what you're
SCA?
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would need to be somebody who has the experience and has been doing it. It may even be somebody who's not even in the coffee industry, who isn't involved in the actual judging of it.
Yeah.
But somebody who has run competitions like this in other industries and knows exactly what kinds of skill sets we need to run an effective competition like this. And it may be that we have to, and by we I mean SCA, and I'm not even a member of SCA, but I think those guys need to look at somebody from outside and say, we need to put a national competition together for roasters, for baristas, and for Brewers Cup.
Tasters.
And tasters as well. We need to put 4 competitions together nationally. We need you to put a team of 5 people together.
And say, hey, I want you to put the same amount of effort into the cup tasters as you do into the baristas.
Absolutely.
Because it pretty much, in order of importance, goes barista, Brewers Cup, roasters, cup tasters.
Right. And they're all very important parts of our industry.
I've almost, they're all so important.
Right.
How can one be more important than the other?
And imagine,
Mark from Onyx kept going, if it wasn't for us, those baristas wouldn't even have coffee to serve.
Right.
It's like, shut up. We all know that.
Shout out to Mark. But my thing with that is, I'm just making sure that all the levels are right. But my thing with that is, if we had a well thought out competition that had judges that people could trust, and then we brought volunteers in to be involved in the logistics of those things.
Definitely.
So they were the people. Absolutely.
It just reminded me of something else at the Brewers Cup. They were already about 30 minutes behind, and we pre-ground our coffee for that event and pre-wetted our filters backstage. And before Ashley's comp, they got pushed another 20 minutes behind, so she stood backstage with all of her equipment pre-ground, which I don't think at that time I was allowed to do anything, like give coffee, take coffee.
Oh no.
So we thought it was going to be maybe 5 minutes to go set up until she starts her presentation, and she stood back there with her cart for like 25, 30 minutes, pre-ground coffee, pre-wet filters, which at that time had completely dried out, which changed our extraction, because if the filters are pre-wet and dried a little bit, it won't absorb as much water, but if they've dried out all the way, it'll absorb some more water, so you'd actually need like 5 more grams for the brew, but she didn't know, and the coffee still tasted great, I know that for sure.
But it was too complex, so what do you know? You don't know what you're talking about, obviously.
Just shit like that, come on guys, can't we just go and we say we're going to be on time?
Right, and we get that things happen.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't, that's the point.
And those poor volunteers are just there, and they're the ones that are hearing shit from everybody for not being on time, and
you're right.
Yeah, it's just... In
the Roasters comp, there's some interesting things that happened.
A lot of interesting things, I think.
Particularly for your, like I was there in the dungeon weird. And shout out to Taylor, I think it was from Cropster. Is that who I was talking to? Yeah, Taylor,
well, yeah.
He and I were so weirded out by where that competition was that we were standing there writing a movie script about it. So anyone who didn't see it,
basement delivery floor of the convention center.
Okay, it was crazy. It was
go down in a huge cargo elevator, which no one really knew how to operate.
It felt like a scene from a gangster movie.
Yeah, it was.
And the setup, I posted about it, somebody said,
40 degrees outside, and we're roasting coffee basically outside.
It was weird.
Yeah.
And there was the setup looked like something out of Iron Man. It really did. It was quite intense. And we were standing around for the longest time, and nothing was happening. A lot of the competitors hadn't turned up.
Nope. No one really knew what was going on. No one knew if we could start or stop. No one had answers to a lot of the questions.
Right.
They didn't cover it. We didn't know if we could So we had, the way it was laid out, we had 30 minutes on Thursday to do our practice roast. We received 9 kilos of coffee at the beginning. And then on Friday, we had another half an hour to roast as well. I had questions like, can I use the coffee from Thursday and turn that in on Friday and not even roast? And they were like, I don't know, I have to check on that for you.
Wow.
So you get 30 minutes. I got 3 roasts done in 30 minutes.
Which means you had 3 roast curves.
3 roast curves. We used Cropster. It worked great.
What was supposed to happen after that?
We went the next morning. We got our roast curves actually sent to us that night. They did that. We cupped the coffee the next morning. And then you roast later that day in your time slot, and you're supposed to be able to reference any of your 3 roast curves.
Could you choose which roast curve?
I could.
Not you personally. Technically, you should have been able to use any of those 3 curves as a reference.
Yeah, so you go in and you load your name, and then there's your curves from yesterday.
You pick one, and it's your reference curve.
Load them, yeah. And
what happened?
They had 1 curve for me, out of 3, and it wasn't mine. I looked at it, and the rate of rise went down, and then it went back up.
That would be called a flick?
It was before they even flick. It was a horrible looking curve. I was like, oh, someone really fucked that one up.
And it wasn't yours?
It was like 3 minutes in, 5 minutes into the roast, it went back. It was crazy. And I was like, well, that's not mine. And then they say, well, we didn't say that you were going to be able to load your curve. And it didn't just happen to me. And I'm not making excuses, because his didn't load, and he did just well and proceeded to the next round. I just couldn't really roast that coffee too well on the machine. I don't think. I kind of kept messing it up.
It was a
natural Brazil from LA Coffee.
What roaster were you using? Mill City?
Mill City 3 kilo roaster with about a 6 millimeter probe.
Oh shit. It was the size of this pencil?
Thick, yes.
Anyone who's been to any of Scott's roasting classes?
If you have a Mill City 3 kilo, the machine actually worked pretty good. The airflow, you couldn't turn up more than 30% for some reason, because just the way they had it vented there.
And your roast curves look like straight lines, like perfect.
Yeah, the rate of rise didn't start to come up to peak until about 4 minutes into the roast or something. So if you have a Mill City, the machine works great, but I would put maybe a 3 millimeter probe in there right away for your bean and your environmental temp for sure.
If Scott's listening to this, he's going to be incredibly happy that I've actually learnt something from his roast classes, given that I've never roasted a batch in my life.
You probably do pretty well.
I wouldn't say so. Yeah. I know a lot of the logistics. I can read a roast curve now.
Right.
Which shocks a lot of the people who roast for us, because if I'm tasting a baked coffee, and I'm getting a lot better at tasting the relationship between what I'm seeing on the roast curve and what's happening in the elixir. But if it's a baked coffee and I've asked them to send me the roast curve, a lot of roasters really want to fight me on like, hey, look, there's a crash that's happening there. And one roaster was like, I think crash is a bit harsh. I'm like, well, no, crash is the technical term. Yeah. See that line there with the rate of rises and it's going right down?
Right.
That's crashing the fuck out of that roast.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the ego that's involved in a lot of it.
It's the ego of, like we said before, of just not knowing yourself and putting on a front to give yourself protection. And I'm not feel vulnerable.
And that's me falling into the same kind of, well, people perceiving me in the same way that they perceived Scott with that post. It's like, I'm not having a dig, bro. I'm just saying, hey, look, this is what I'm tasting. This is a crash. I just want you to know that this is what's happening. This is how it tastes in elixir. Yeah. It's more pronounced in elixir because it reveals everything about your roast, and maybe you want to fix it. I'm not saying this stuff to you to be an asshole.
Right.
I'm saying, hey, let's
make it better.
I mean, and this is why Scott and I want to I want to particularly have a conversation about this kind of attitude, because I think that people who are focused on how do I do better can sometimes be misinterpreted as this person just wants to be an asshole to show that they know more than everyone else, and it's never about that.
No.
Anyone who's a true professional is just like, hey, how can I help you do this better?
Right. And you know, if you're on the receiving end of that, try what they're saying, experiment yourself, and if it doesn't make it better, or you think that person's full of shit, whether it's Scott, whether it's someone else from around the world, just try it. And if it doesn't, then, oh, well, you tried it, and that person, you don't agree with them, and you move on.
And I've often wondered, why do people take it so fucking personally?
We had a thing recently here of, I'm going to grab a couple more portafilters for our machine to always have them rotating to better speed up flow. And someone was like, well, you can't do that. You have to have the portafilters in there and warm. And I said, why? Really? Like, no, I don't think so. Let's test it. Let's pull 8 shots, some with cooled off portafilters, some with hot ones. Let's test the TDS in our extraction and taste test. No difference whatsoever.
People have been told
that you can't. You have to have the group head warm. It's going to affect the coffee taste. Maybe
that was the case 20 years ago when they were using different metals.
Yeah,
but they don't know that.
Everything was very variable. Every shot, the extraction differentiated between about 1% either way, between warm or not warm, and they all tasted pretty much the same. We kind of favored actually the cool ones, maybe, if you were to average it out.
So what's people's theory behind that? That if something's warmer, it's fitting better into the seal of the group head?
I don't know. I think it's something more about the temperature of the brew or something. I have no idea. I don't know.
Oh,
but
so
it's a thing though. Like, ask people. Like,
I've always found it strange when people say that to me. And
you have to keep this in there and keep it warm.
I'm still yet to find somebody that can explain what they mean by that, because
no one they don't know either. They're just going to say
this is a real problem in our industry. People who are either regurgitating information or half informations that they've heard from other people, and when you ask them to explain it, if a true professional will be open to hearing what your reasoning is behind something, with the expectation that if it's something that they don't know, you're about to teach them something.
Yeah, what the fuck is shocking a shot if you pull an espresso over ice? Why can't you do that?
So I remember the first person...
Is that a thing? Yeah. We do ice espressos, but we pull it into a tin and then shake it with ice. We don't pull it onto the ice, but for no reason other than the flow is easier.
And look, if I'm all for these terms, if people can explain to me if they can explain to me either the science or the logic behind what they're doing, and they can tell me how that translates, and on top of that, they can tell me the process under which they went through that experiment.
Right.
But these people who are talking about shockingness and all this other stuff that they're talking about, based on, I read this on somebody's blog, or this is what I heard, we have to stop doing that.
I saw it on a forum, on the home barista forum. I'm guessing that's a thing. I don't know. The home baristas are probably.
Yeah. I got to say, the home baristas are the ones that I tend to be more open to listening to, because they come with a sense of
I've been
humility.
Doing this. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not an industry professional, but I've been trying this every day for the last 2 years.
And they come, most of them are engineers or really technical people that are like, well, so I have actually been using this same machine every single day, trying to perfect this. Do you want to taste my coffee and tell me what it feels like? And or they'll ask the questions, which I would love to see more baristas open to that. Open to the feedback. I think people who are true professionals are asking, how do I do better, and are saying, I don't know, far more than they're saying,
this is how you do this.
I had an example. This was really unfortunate. I had a barista that I was working with here in the States, actually, and customer came in with a question. There was myself and 2 other baristas on bar, and a customer came in and said, which has more caffeine, a light roast or a darker roast? And the barista, let's call that person Jenny. Jenny said I can't remember whether she said one or the other had a darker, had more caffeine. I didn't know the answer, and she has been a barista for a year. And so I went to her and said, oh, hey, that's awesome. can you tell me how you knew that? And she said, well, that's what I've been told to say. I'm sure, actually, she said the lighter roast has more caffeine. That's right. She said the lighter roast had more caffeine, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome to know. How do you know that? Because I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for a long time, but you know,
Right.
caffeine content is just one of those things that I've never really been able to quantify between roasts.
Right.
At that time, I didn't know a lot of what I know about roasting now, which is still 1% of what I need to know about roasting. The barista that was working with her said, she's right, I know 100% what she's talking about. And I said, then can you explain it to me? Because I really want to learn about this. Can you tell me why there is more caffeine in a lighter roast than there is in a darker roast? And he said, no, I can't, I don't know, I just know that that's the right answer. And I got really frustrated by that because I was putting myself in a situation to learn.
Yeah.
I didn't know the answer, but I wasn't able to trust what my colleague was telling me, and they just immediately dropped in. As far, I would never trust anything that they said after that.
Right.
I said to him, how sure are you? And he said, I'm 600% sure. I said to him, great, because I'm about to text somebody who will know the answer to that 100%.
Right.
You can imagine who it's going to be.
Yeah.
And he said, well, what does that person know anyway? I'm like, you're telling me, what does Scott Rayo know about caffeine content in a roast? He's like, well, what does he know about it? Sure enough, they were wrong.
What is the correct answer?
So the correct answer isn't necessary. It's not that there is more caffeine in one or the other. It's the accessibility to the caffeine. So as you're breaking down, and this is, and I'm sure I'm fucking this explanation up, but the idea is that
it's going to light up.
tell me about it. 100 people are going to tell me what kind of a fucking moron I am, but that's fine. But from what I understood about it, and the way that, and I'm sorry, Scott, if I'm cocking this explanation up, but when you are removing water from a coffee bean, and so the roasting process takes the moisture out of the coffee bean, and then it breaks down the cellulose, right? So that's basically what roasting does. As you do that and you break down the cellulose, it actually creates, through when you grind the coffee and then you add water to it, it creates more accessibility to the caffeine that's in the coffee. Makes sense, right? It's logical. So that's why if you're developing the coffee more, that you are going to have more access
to caffeine.
to caffeine.
Right.
So it's exactly the same amount of caffeine technically in both of them, right? Because the bean has X amount of caffeine in it. The variable is the roast though, because it gives us more accessibility to one than the other. So technically, if you're getting a more developed coffee,
you're going to have access to more
caffeine in the cup. Does that make sense? This barista.
So it's not even about lighter or darker.
No. So when I explained that, I'm like, hey, and I saw that this was a teachable moment. I didn't want to go and say, hey, you're wrong. I simply said to this person, I'm like, oh, hey, look, I just wanted to pass on. And look, he came up to me and he's like, so I was right, wasn't I? And I'm like, well, actually, you can't really look at it the way that you are looking at it. So having an answer to that question, you can't really say that lighter is more right than wrong or darker is more right than wrong.
Right.
You have to look at it from a development perspective, and this is what's going on there. And he's like, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm like, who doesn't know what they're talking about? He's like, Scott Rayo doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm like, well, dude, fuck you too, because I'm helping you understand something that I just learned.
Yeah.
And it's this attitude that I think that I would like to see shift, but people not be so resistant to learning more. This wasn't about him being proven right or wrong.
Yeah, and to defend him, your story could just be the same as his story where he heard it from. Almost. And this, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't know who Scott is. So why should he believe you? Oh, he does?
He does.
But I was going to say, I'm going to text Jimmy John
Right.
because he knows about roasting. He's been home roasting in his shed for 10 years.
Right. But my thing was, and that's why I said
So
to him, "Oh, could you tell me the logic behind that?"
Who taught you that?
Or even explain to me what you understand about
Right.
that. So then what that does is it opens the conversation up to us start to challenge each other, like, which I think is so healthy.
Yeah.
The idea of if I'm telling you something about doing a pour over, and you say to me, actually, have you seen this new technique? And let me show you what we're doing here, right? So you guys do the tapping and you do the spinning and all that kind of stuff, and I see something new that you're doing, or you're teaching me how to correct my technique on something.
Right. But you're not just accepting it. Well,
Right.
why did you tap?
Right.
Why
Can
did
you
you spin it?
tell me why you're doing that?
Here's our theory behind it.
Exactly. And so what I'm saying is that once we open ourselves up, and we talk a lot about like open-mindedness, and if you're going to, the best baristas, or the baristas and the roasters and coffee professionals who are going to have the best careers are the ones that can get the fuck out of their own way and start opening their minds up
Exactly.
as soon as possible.
Yes.
And so as soon as you know how to say, teach me, instead of saying, I know everything more, the more willing you're going to be to bring people into your process, and the faster you're going to progress to know more, right?
And that's funny because that's some things I could struggle with as a leader in training everyone. Well, how do you do this? You're maybe in their minds I'm one of the best because
you're the boss man.
Because I'm the boss man, right? Teach me how you do espresso because you're the best. Okay, well, or they'll ask me a question and I'll be like, well, here's my answer, but this might not be right. And I struggle with that. Like, do you want me to do this way? I'm like, yeah, that's a good way to do it, but maybe there's other ways. I'm not giving them definitive answers.
How are your staff receptive to that? Because, we've been through an interesting hiring process, which we never ended up finishing, but we'll get back to that. I love your team purely because they're sponges and they just want to learn more, and they don't come with any kind of ego.
I think if you let them, I don't want to say delegate, but in a way delegate the tasks and let them maybe see what your technique is, but if you give them the freedom to try other things, they might come up with something better for the system than you originally thought of too. Yeah,
I find the best teams are put together when there's a way for everyone to step up.
Yeah.
And for everyone to be elevated. Noma does this really well. Noma in Copenhagen. Do you know Rene Redzepi?
No.
Or of him. He has a restaurant called Noma, and they have, I think they call it Friday Chef Challenge or something like that. It's this idea that everyone has the option to enter this weekly kind of thing where they get in teams, that they get to present a dish.
Nice.
And if it's an amazing dish and Renee approves it, it ends up on the menu.
Yeah, that's same thing here.
At a world-class restaurant, that's huge for these chefs, because a lot of them stage. For anyone that doesn't know what staging is, it's like you work for free in a restaurant. This idea that a chef who is staging at a world-class restaurant working for a world-class team of chefs can present something that is of their own creation, and at a restaurant like Noma, it has to be fucking incredible before it gets there. But the fact that an environment has been created that has non-adversarial competition, there's that term again, is fantastic, because what it says is everyone's on equal standing,
right,
and everyone gets to put something forward.
Yeah, and you also don't want to put a limit on things. Like, what are the in and out numbers for espresso? Well, they're this and this, but
let's try something that's an
extra
extra 5 grams out.
Yeah, try a long shot for try things and taste it, and if it's good, maybe let's look into that more, and if it's not, let's not do that again.
I remember when I was, as a puppy barista, we were all intuitive at that point. Even though we had timers and we had scales, it really wasn't something that we were doing 15 years ago. We didn't really have an interest in that. And I found personally I had a real resistance to weighing shots and
Yeah.
timing shots, and I was that
Because you're
asshole.
a pro, you know how to, you know.
And I couldn't be told anything.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I was like, I remember turning up in LA in 2009, going to Intelligentsia in Venice, shout out to Nicely, and he made me a shot, and he was weighing everything and trying to explain that to me, and telling me like, this is the way that we make espresso, and I'm like, these guys, like, look at this, the Americans fucking weigh everything, can't they just, I'm like, you know, 2 years later I thought, fuck, I was an asshole.
Yeah.
But I had to go through that learning process of how arrogant that made me by not embracing change and not embracing open-mindedness. And it was this thing of an internal conversation with myself of, well, why can't you move? Like, why can't you open yourself up to the idea that having consistency could be about the numbers? It's arrogance.
Yeah, it is.
And we've all been.
Yeah. It's kind of the theme of this podcast.
It seems to be. But yeah, like, I remember working with someone at Harry's in Bondi, a really good friend of mine, Noah, and he pulled a shot for 50 seconds. And I'm like, you can't do that. And he's like, taste it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking taste that. Like, why would you give me something that's gonna taste like shit? And he's like, really? You're gonna be one of those? Just taste it. And I gotta tell you, I was shocked.
Yeah.
It tasted great. And that was one of those moments where I'm like, catching myself thinking, I'm an asshole.
Yeah. You're a dick.
Clearly, like, ask the internet. A lot of people on the internet will tell you that I'm a dick.
Oh man. So someone needs to start a television show called Mythbusters for Coffee.
Right.
And they need to do whatever those Mythbusters guys' names are, and bust all the myths on their show.
That's not a bad
It's a perfect idea.
Actually, this is a really great idea for a...
Matt should move to Santa Barbara.
He'll never do that.
He might want to learn to surf. And him and
he
Scott can go and do that.
They would be a really fun little brother and big brother kind of team where they do a Mythbusters kind of thing. I don't know that would go so great.
No, that would go horrible.
They would be arguing. Well, they get on really, really well. It's just that they would, you know, perfectionists, it's a curse because you never actually get to the end of anything.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the situation that would end up in.
Yeah.
But somebody needs to do it.
Yeah.
I think that would be, but somebody needs to do it that's open to having their busted myths busted.
Right, yeah.
I don't know that.
Yeah. So no one's going to do it.
No, correct.
Maybe someone in the Midwest. They get
Why the
more
Midwest?
time there, it seems like. Long winters.
Yeah. I hate my life because it just snows all the fucking time.
I'll start a television show.
Yeah, let's just do that. We can never go outside, but that's fine.
Yeah.
What's so your roast, now that this is open and it's beautiful,
Thanks. We're working on it. Still got stuff to do.
what's left to do in here? It looks pretty
We got
finished.
a bar there, some two tops along the wall, some bleacher seating behind me.
Uh-huh.
Little plant shelf. I think that's almost done.
Tell me the story about this guy. I don't know if people can see it. That's
Jason did this. He's done a few murals around town. We have some artwork in our old cafe from him. Just a good, genuine local artist. That's one of those artists that's not full of himself and can actually come in and do the work and do it professionally. And I really
so
respect
sick.
that about him, and he does great, cool stuff.
Yeah. For anyone who is...
Check out Text Artists online, TEKST. He has a lot of very cool prints. Usually he takes and distorts words into the shape of the art.
Oh, wow.
So it'll be a song lyrics in an art piece or a whole spelling of something. Yeah, it's actually pretty cool.
If you're listening to this and not watching on the internet, we check out IMAP of Forward on Instagram. We're going to post a photo of this mural. It's a spaceman in a combi van. Do you call them combi vans here?
We call them Vanagons.
This is a Vanagon?
Vanagon I think that's what they call them.
Okay. In Australia it's a combi van, but it's really cool. Tell me why the spaceman.
Because we have a blend called the Space Traveler.
Uh-huh.
So this is a spaceman traveling around in his Vanagon.
And there's that.
Did it just click?
Yes, it did.
Oh man, it's the Space Traveler.
Well, I thought it was a picture that that Ashley had drawn.
No, she drew another spaceman.
Off the Space Traveler.
Yeah, off the Space Traveler. He was on the moon with a rocket ship and a coffee mug. Yeah.
It's a pretty cool sticker.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So is he gonna turn into quite the ambassador for Steady State?
He's going to be on T-shirts soon. We got licensing rights from Jason as well.
Fantastic. I am putting my hand up for one of those.
Okay.
Just so that you know.
Got it.
What's the big plan?
Big plan?
Yeah. 10 years plan.
To have a line out the door every day here. To have our roastery up and running efficiently and effectively. I already want to get a new roaster even though we don't have our current one running.
You've got a San Franciscan, right?
Yeah, we got a SF25.
Is it out of the box yet?
It's out of the box on the
Congratulations.
pallets.
Okay.
We just had a conversation with my contractor while you were here about getting the hole in the roof and finishing it up. We're dealing with more red tape from the city about running a gas line.
Everyone keeps telling me how hard it is to get a roastery open in California.
Yeah.
What's it about? Is it the afterburners? Is it...
It's that you don't really need a air pollution check unless someone complains.
Uh-huh. And you don't...
Our landlord's kind of requiring one from us, even though we
okay.
probably can't technically do that, but why not do it anyway? And it's basically just another large expense. I think it's about $5,000 in fees.
Fuck.
And they come out and they just take some measurements. I talked to Matt from Lofty, and he's like, I think they just came out and took some temperature readings from our afterburner or whatever, and that was it. So it's more of just giving them money to have a roaster.
Seems to be a theme when you open a business in California.
Yeah, it really does. Like, we bought that afterburner specifically for that because I really like the other system this guy makes in LA called the Vortex, which uses water, and it's really good fire suppressant, and it cleans the chaff and the smoke. But I think
how does it do that? Does it use...
It has a pump, and it has water lines that run up into the chaff collector and sprays it out. So it just sprays it all down and collects it and circulates it. It's probably actually better for the environment. I don't know. That's a
Is
claim.
that a similar system to, I think it's called, is it drenching or quenching or something like that?
Maybe. I think you're thinking of cooling the roast.
Yeah, so quenching where it sprays the beans.
Yeah, that's different. This is different. This is to eliminate smoke and odor.
Okay.
And I would have liked to have gotten that, but I think once I was anticipating probably having to go through the air pollution control, and that's probably something new. Like Matt from Lofty, they had a lowering, and this was years ago, and they had never really even seen a lowering before, and they didn't really even know what to do. So it's just something that could have even prolonged it, even though the Vortex thing is about $16,000 cheaper than an afterburner.
Yeah, wow.
And it's just like, well, we'll just get the afterburner. Hopefully it'll make things smoother.
And so tell people what an afterburner is for anyone who doesn't know.
Afterburner basically incinerates or burns off the smoke, so it produces less smoke while you're roasting, less odor. Good if you're in an area like this where there's homes and residential areas, but if you're in an industrial complex where we are, where there's already a bunch of industrial stuff going on, it doesn't fucking matter.
Because I know that Jared and Chris and Chuck had that problem. They had to do that too. Yep. Yeah. And they're in California, so it's one of those things that it slowed them opening a couple weeks.
Really? Yeah.
Which can be a real problem when you haven't got anything open and nobody's earning a wage, and you know, Chuck and Jared have families. Yeah. And Chris is married. Yeah. You know, you can't go without earning a wage for too long.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, these are the kinds of things that are really tough for a business owner, right? Like not being able to anticipate these hidden expenses.
Yeah, you gotta plan ahead, and you gotta research that as much as you can and know it's there, and just, I want to say, push it around your expenses if you can. Because
if you don't have, we talk about this.
Who needs the money the most right now?
That's
who
the
do you
cash
need to
flow
pay to
problem,
get shit
right?
done? You know what I mean?
Yeah, can you delay paying your contractors? Do you have to, can you come up with payment plans? Do you need to get another credit card?
Right, all that kind of stuff.
All of these kinds of cash flow issues that, look, as a business owner, Elixir was my first business that included physical stock. And learning how to manage cash flow.
Huge, yeah. And we bootstrapped everything from over there. We literally, the business got us here with our initial investment of, I think for $8,000 or something, we bought that roaster and a grinder, and everything else from then until now was from the business.
What's the espresso machine you've got over there? It's a hand lever.
An Astoria Rapallo 2 hand lever machine. Don't ever buy one of those. I like La Marzocco's. I haven't tried their new lava machine, but
look, just get
something where you push the fucking button. Like, it's 2018. Why go backwards?
Poor Solveig was like, she had to jump up to the lever.
Stand on the thing to get to it because the counter ended up in higher. Yeah. Oh no, don't get one of those, folks.
No.
Not at all. It's semi-romantic for about 2 seconds, and then you're like, this is stupid. You can't control anything. Maybe the new leva you can, but this old piece of machinery, no, you can't.
I worked on one of those, and it's the only time I've ever had problems with my shoulder, and I only worked on it for 3 days, and I'm like, fuck no, this is not happening, and I pieced out of that job very quickly.
Yeah, don't buy one of those.
No.
It does run on propane, so that's cool.
If you're mobile.
Yeah, if you're mobile. But you still need a deep cycle battery to run your grinder and the water pump, so.
It's a more clusterfuck.
Yeah.
So now you've got a PB, is it PB?
Linear PB, yeah, 3 group. Something, actually, I can't remember if it was Kyle or Babinski that told Dave, why would you get a 2 group? Why would you plan to be slow?
That's a great approach.
Always plan to be busy, so
yeah.
we got a 3 group.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And it just makes sense if a group head goes down, you still have 2 at least, and yeah.
And it sends a message to your team.
It does,
I think.
yeah. And your customer is like, oh, they
anticipate
They need
growth.
to have a coffee company.
Yeah. So you've gone from, how big was your last?
240 square feet.
How much is that in meters?
I have no idea.
Whatever it is, it was tiny.
70.
70 square meters.
Probably, yeah.
So it was a tiny, tiny shop. It was in
75.
amongst a pottery place and
woodworker,
it was literally just the bar.
Bike shop.
You had no
glass
seating?
shop. No, 3 seats.
On the actual
side,
bench.
That were too tall and weird.
Especially for the little people in the crowd. So now you've come to a legit big shop that's really beautifully designed. How has that changed the way that your staff feel about being a part of the team?
I think they actually they believe in steady state from the beginning if they came over, right?
Yep.
And actually because everyone interviewed and that they saw that before they even saw this. So I feel like it just really legitimized it. Like, I feel like we've been making the best coffee we could for the last 2 years, and now we tested our theory and we proved it, and now we're going to start a real business.
You're a grown-up business now.
Yeah,
you were legit.
Yeah.
And you weren't one of these people who was like, I'm going to take out a loan for $300,000 and hope to fuck it works out.
No, yeah, I had no idea. I've never owned a coffee shop. I've been pretty self-employed for a while, but I didn't know how to do the slightest bit of anything.
Your story is really similar to a lot of people that contact me and say, hey, so I want to quit my life and I figure making coffee can't be too hard.
Yeah, I didn't really want to quit my life even. I was working in the bike industry and I was like, the bike industry's kind of going nowhere. It's like every industry, really. I worked in the surfboard industry before that, then the cycling, and I was like, kind of always worked for myself a lot in a lot of those, and it was like, I just want to keep working for myself. And the original plan was just to stay smaller, but you know,
Then you
those
met
things
me.
goes. Yeah.
And I'm like, let's aim for the stars.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about the hiring process that you went through, because
Okay.
that was really interesting. The way that because this was the first time, I mean, it was something that I came up with in 5 seconds, and then it worked really well for me. And then you and I were working together with putting everything together for the cafes and whatnot, the cafe and the roastery and whatnot, from a consulting perspective. And you said that you wanted to use that method as well. So we talked about how you put those questions up and you told people to apply through Instagram. And then what happened once you picked people?
Group interview.
Yeah, so you invited everyone to show up at the old shop.
Right.
Down the road.
We had our current employees there, my investor friends Len and Dave, yourself, and all the new employees. And we went over some of the questions and had some more questions, but it was really just kind of an open conversation with everybody. And
so we lined them up and took target practice. No, I'm joking. So they came in and they sat all together, and everyone who wasn't being interviewed as a group, we all stood behind the bar, and they stood on the customer side of things. And you and I had discussed how we were going to approach it, and you had some fantastic ideas, as did your staff. And we decided we were going to, I guess, look at the thing that everyone had in common, which was the questions that they answered online.
Right.
And we just got them to, we went through the questions, and we were looking at more than, because we already knew everybody's answers, but we wanted to get a read for how these people worked together and how they related with you and with the team, right? That was the whole purpose of that.
Yep.
And what did we notice?
What do you mean?
Well, in the sense that, first, did it work?
Yeah, definitely worked.
I mean,
I think we're going to do that from here on out.
Because it was very different to everything that we've ever seen before in hiring.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic dynamic. And then I don't know whose idea this was, to ask the question.
The last question?
The last question.
Oh, it was, John's from Campfire, the restaurant across the street, because they always do group interviews usually. And the idea when you're doing all the interview and the question is to use the new hires' names a lot, or the new potential hires' names, and get them engaging in conversation and talking to each other. And then at the end you say, okay, imagine that you've been hired. I want you to pick one other person that interviewed today and write their name down and why you would hire them.
And then something really strange happened.
Everyone picked the same
person.
Yeah.
Which was not what I expected.
No, I didn't expect that either. He said it happened in one of his, and she's their lead server now. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Another thing that I found interesting was how invested your current staff at the time. They really enjoyed the process, and they all came up with questions.
Yeah.
And it was really fun to see how seriously they took it. They because they were an invested part of the process, they wanted the outcome of this to be successful.
Right, yeah. A sense of ownership in what they're doing, what we're doing, what Steady Seeds doing.
Yeah. And then when we kind of all came together after the interviewees had left, it was really interesting to see how on the same page a lot of us were with the decision making.
Yeah, and it was good. There were some good hires, other potential candidates too, but they just lived too far away and stuff. So, but it was interesting learning that they didn't maybe necessarily want to tell you either, and you got to figure that out. Oh, you live 45 minutes away downtown. That's
using the 5 at that time of morning, or that's a freeway for anyone who lives around here. You're fucked. Like going home at 4 o'clock on the 5 if you're living in San Diego, and that's what time you're going to be out of here. That's a nightmare. That's going to have an employer wanting to leave quicker than if they lived locally.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you? So then, after we had decided on the 3 people, then what we said was what?
We did well, they graciously waited for us to open our new cafe, so thank you. And then we basically did 2 weeks of a trial. Well, we're actually only doing about a week. We found out it takes. And we had a meeting today, my two store managers, assistant managers, and we kind of actually said we messed up a little bit and we should have given them a little bit, because the only training we did with them was on the espresso machine, and we should have given them a little more direction before they started of what we actually wanted them to do.
So pour overs and beverage preparation or systems?
Customer service, assistants.
Because none of the people that we ended up going with had worked in coffee before, right?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah. So that's why
no coffee experience.
That's
fair. So we'll do that a little better next time. We were a little stressed getting ready to Seattle and all that. Yeah. They actually started on Monday and I left Wednesday, so it was only like 2 days. And we'll do that better next time. And I think only 3 shifts you need until you can maybe determine if an employee is a good fit.
Because that was the next step, wasn't it? It was saying, like, this isn't the final decision, but we're going to invite the 3 of you to trial. To trial out and see. It's not whether you're a good person or a bad person or good work or bad work. It's more of just if you jive with our team and our customers, because customers are in a way your team as well. So, which is the reason for asking those questions in the first place, right? Right. It's how do I find my people? Right. And my people are going to fit my environment a lot better as an owner. You know, I particularly liked your dogs and cats question. Yep. I remember asking, why are you asking cats and dogs? Because honestly, I couldn't see it because I don't have pets. I love animals, but I don't have pets. And I realized that, no, he's on the money. Like, that's such a fundamental question. Cat people are just so weird. I love cats too, but... But just not cat owners? No, you can't say that. Well, we have now. Yeah. It's just, yeah. I kind of want to get a cat after our dog passed away, just because it'd be easier. Yeah, you don't. You can go on vacation or go on holidays a little easier with a cat than a dog. So that was my reason for wanting a cat. So, you know, you don't have to really pay attention to it. They just look after themselves. Yeah. Leave a bag of food. Try to fuck your life. Dogs are very much more taxing on the human experience. But you know, there were some questions in there that at least gave you insight into the people from a different perspective. Yeah, and we're gonna do something similar every time. I don't ever see having a real application, one of those things that you get from Staples where you rip the sticky page out and I'll fill this out. Was it quick? Yeah, it was quick. It was easy, It was so easy. Like I said, I would skim the questions, I'd look at their Instagram pictures, and it was a pretty easy, let's invite them, let's not invite them. Yeah, group interview. Yeah. That was a lot of fun. We all laughed. Yeah, and it's not that the people we didn't invite were bad people, but they just weren't necessarily we were looking for coffee professionals. You were looking for coffee professionals? Yes. You mean previously? Always. So what you're saying is you weren't looking for people who knew how to make coffee, you were looking for people who were actual, that could be molded into. Yeah, we weren't looking for someone in college that wanted to work 15 hours a week to tell their friends they work at Steady State. Because none of the people that applied had ever worked in coffee before. Well, none of the people that were invited to trial. To trial, had actually worked in coffee. I think one candidate did. Okay. She's no longer with us. She didn't end up getting past the trial period. So you were looking for people who wanted a long-term career in coffee? Yes. As opposed to just being here for 5 seconds. And is that how Steady State's going to hire from now on? Yep. Why? Because they're more invested in our business and we're not going anywhere for a while, and I want to build a great, I hate using the word community all the time, but a community around us and around my business, and it makes me happier. Even internally, like if you've got a great community internally, the external community really starts to relate to that, right? Like I'm happy to come to work and see everybody now, and I think for the most part they're happy when I come in too, and it's not like, oh shit, here comes the boss. Like, how does that feel? Great, like
it's cool that they want to work on bar with me and I want to work on bar with them at the same time.
As an owner, and I can speak to my experience of this, but I'm really interested to see what your experience of this. You have this idea. How long have you had this business?
2 years?
Okay.
2.5 years?
So 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, you have this idea to create this thing.
Yeah.
And you have no idea how it's going to turn out.
Nope.
And this moment, when you come into work and you see these people so invested, you see that you are now onto the second iteration of what steady state is, with iteration 3 and 4 already
planned
happening
out.
in your mind.
Right.
Talk me through what that feels like as a human.
It's rewarding. It's better than the potential for money, 100%.
Does this surprise you?
No, it's kind of what I was aiming for.
Yeah,
I've never actually really ever had money, if you wanted to say that.
Yeah.
I've been a professional athlete and I made surfboards and
There's
lived in
no
Costa
money in either
Rica.
of those
And
things.
living in Costa Rica, you're not going to make much money either just surfing every day. So I've always kind of pursued things that just bring more joy than monetary gain. So
Yeah, I'm 100%
Yeah.
I'm on board with that. Do you find that it's a pinch myself kind of thing, like to see where things are at right now? Even
sometimes,
though you may not have an enormous
occasionally I
amount
have
of
a
money?
quick glimpse into it, but I'm more focused on getting our warehouse up and running.
So you don't sell. You haven't really
Getting the
spent
saloon
moments.
doors installed, the shelf, the seating, so avoid any more one-star Yelp reviews that we don't have any seating or sugar or napkins. Dick.
You gotta love Yelp.
The pizza place got it the same day from the same guy, right over here in Paradise. They make pretty good pizza too, so fuck that guy. Anyway,
Fuck
we don't
that
need to
guy.
talk about that.
But it is one of those things where I hope that you do, and I'm that person that keeps saying to you, hey, like, are you celebrating any of this yet?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, and you keep saying, not yet.
Not yet.
I'm like, are you excited? And you're like, not yet.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited, but a customer, a friend, a buddy kind of customer guy today, he's like, are you really stressed? And I said, I'm not actually stressed. I'm just working a lot.
I don't think I've ever seen you stressed.
I'm just working a lot. Just trying to check the boxes of things to move on to the next iteration or the next steps. To actually make my life easier. As soon as we get that warehouse up and running,
Life will be
and we're
easier.
roasting on a larger roaster,
You won't
then
be
we
doing
can
40
breathe.
batches a week.
until
or in
we
2
probably
days.
get more fucking accounts, and then
And then you're like,
and then we're
we've got
maxing out
another
the
problem.
SF25, and that's why I've already started thinking, not planning or anything about the next steps after that. So because it's like it kind of comes in like big pushes, you know. We had the big push to get this open, but it just so happened to be at the same time of trying to open a warehouse. So
as well as competing at a national level for the Roasters Cont.
and moving
We
moved our residence at the same time.
All
So,
of it happens at the same
yeah,
time.
our house you can't come by.
I don't
No one
think
can come over.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
When you've had 5 minutes to figure out where you're going to put all the boxes.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You and I have talked about, and we spoke about this at the recent Map It Forward workshop, about this idea of trigger numbers and growth.
Yep.
Like, what you are creating at Steady State is this idea of a business with you and your business partners. How do we create something that's in a healthy business
Right.
state? And you texted me the other day saying that you know what the next trigger number is.
Yeah, Len and I set that up. He actually said it. He was like, we should set a number. And I was like, we should set a trigger number for our next cafe. And we know as soon as we hit that number or like 6 months on track to hitting that number is when we'll start looking at another location.
How did it feel for you? And I'm always curious about this because I'm someone who, when I get more visibility into knowing where I'm aiming for, I just feel a lot more calm. My peace
So
of
much.
mind goes up.
Because
How did you feel?
Yeah, I think the same way I focus a wandering mind, if you would.
Yeah. I have one of those too.
Yeah, and because why don't we have 5 cafes already?
Because Lee said I'm not allowed to open another one for at least 3 years.
Yeah. Well, it's hard enough to hire 5 employees, 6, and let alone hire
And keep
30
them.
and keep them and pay them and make them happy, like, which is what we want to create.
And make sure that there's consistency amongst all 5 cafes.
So it feels great. Like, my efforts, I know exactly what I need to focus them on. The roastery in here.
Yeah.
And until we hit those numbers.
Trigger numbers are fantastic, aren't they? In the sense that, so for anyone listening in that...
I mean, if some special place came along that's too good to pass up and we're doing well enough, we might consider it, but we're not. We're here.
It would have to be a super incredible deal.
It goes back to the don't open a second cafe until you're crushing your current one. Why are you going to take another $200,000, whatever general cost it probably starts, or to open a new cafe, and invest it in something else when you could invest it in your current thing and just already invest less probably and make it more successful?
And
it goes back to being a business, not being a coffee shop. Like
a healthy business.
A healthy business. It goes back to our last podcast of, if you want to start a coffee shop, take that money, buy the building, rent it, lease it to a coffee shop, and go have coffee every day and make money.
And increase your currencies of peace of mind and all that kind of stuff. I spend a lot of my time as a consultant telling people not to open their second shop yet. And a lot of the reasoning I have behind that is your first business is your puppy years, right? We talk a lot about the puppy years of owning something, and that's about learning the fundamentals of how to do shit. And so if you open a shop and you miss the steps of learning the fundamentals, one of those fundamentals being, how do I get extremely busy?
Yeah.
If you
how
don't
do we do
learn
that in a lower population by the coast area?
How
are we going to do that?
A really important skill to learn, right?
Yeah.
If you don't learn that when you have your first business, you still have to learn that skill. But if you go to learn that skill when you have 2 businesses, you are fucked.
Yeah, and the opposite would be opening in a busy location and not knowing how to make coffee or run the systems.
Exactly, the systems, not knowing how to the flow or the economy of movements for your staff, and not being able to anticipate all of that. A really horrible situation to be in is opening your first cafe, not having a lot of customers, you having not been in coffee before, thinking I'll just open a second cafe because it's in a high volume, like a high foot traffic area, and then getting absolutely bent over and pummeled.
Yeah, because you didn't know how to do that yet.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
It's one of those learning curves that, look, some people might think that they're great problems to have, but it's harder to learn those lessons when you have the stress of 2 businesses that you're trying to keep afloat. Whereas if you learnt those lessons with one business, you're actually doing it in a healthier environment.
Right, totally.
Which is, what we keep saying with you, having just the vision of a trigger number and knowing, okay, we're in the situation now, and you're lucky in the sense that you have a business partner that you can bounce shit off, and
and Ellen too,
and
my
a wife,
and you, and employees, and where do they want to go? What do they want to do? Do they want, if we do open a second place 4 years from now, or do they want to move somewhere and open it? Just ideas, But it's good to know, to have the trigger numbers, to know I don't need to devote thinking to another space. I just devote it to here. And
like for you, that trigger number is a financial number. It's not, hey, once we're making, if the trigger number, because your trigger number is specifically for this cafe, if it was a trigger number that was associated to a roastery, it could be, so once we're roasting this many pounds per week, we're going to start looking at buying a second roastery.
And we have that as well too.
But this trigger number that we're talking about is a financial one. So this financial indicator says that once we're earning X amount of dollars per year, we know based on the margins that we've got that we will be in a good enough kind of situation that we're making this much profit, and the profits will give us X amount of credit.
That we've paid our investments down some. We're 2 years probably in business. It's gonna be way easier to get a loan at a better rate for the next thing, whatever it is. If you want to take a loan, maybe you can pay cash by then. Definitely. depends on how big the next place is going to be and what it's going to be.
And where. And I mean,
and what concepts and...
Have you thought of the possibility of going out of the state?
I'm not out of this. No, not yet.
Yep.
I like California. I like San Diego, and I really want to help raise. If I do have a better than average concept in business, I want to start it and grow it here first before.
Which you do. I'm a big fan, obviously, of what you're doing.
Thanks. I'd like to start it here, plant roots here, and then maybe. And
just West Coast, or particularly?
I'd like to. Around this area? I think particularly around this area. Yeah.
What about from the roasting perspective?
That, nationwide for sure, and internationally too. Once we have the other roaster up and running.
I'm keen on seeing if we can do cool shit with you, like a barista exchange and a roaster exchange.
I thought about that the other day with another local shop, and I couldn't just stop thinking how much they would get their ass kicked if they came here. It was busy.
Well, I'm thinking about a barista exchange.
From someone in Australia? Or something? Okay, yeah, that's great, yeah.
So I would love to hook up with some of my mates that are interested in potentially one day opening a shop here.
Yeah.
And your guys...
Come get the vibe of the customers before you do and see what... We're a little special. I think we've kind of created some great customers. We've let them learn some great experiences if they were open to it.
Yep.
With all the coffees we've served, we've had a huge number of... We save so much money on we save so much money on milk by people not putting cream and sugar in their coffee.
Really?
Yeah, hardly any of our customers do. It's open, and we 100% yes. But
you do have an unusual amount of black drinkers here. Black coffee drinkers.
Black coffee drinkers.
Yeah. Actually, I just noticed that you really do have an unusual amount of people who drink black coffee.
It's something we've done for the last 2 years in the little space, from the help, especially of Dave Kennedy and 90 Plus, and some of the coffees we've started serving.
You have incredible coffees, you really do. And you're not a bad roaster.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Sometimes.
This elixir tastes so good.
Thank you.
This is the Juliet.
Yes.
What have we got coming up next?
We have Monte, it's from the farm Monte Blanco, from the producer Rodrigo Sanchez. It's a pink Bourbon from the Colombia Huila region. And interesting story.
It's washed?
It's washed, yeah. So Scott can drink it, so that's cool. He tried it actually in Seattle. He went over my roast with me, or tried the 3 roasts I was considering entering. It's 3 generations of farmers on this farm. Rodrigo is the younger one, and he noticed that he learned the cup back in like 2002 and started learning to actually consider cup profile in the terms of the cup of coffee.
Wow.
So that's one huge thing that once we get to a larger level, I want to be able to work with the farmers and let them try their coffee roasted, and we're on the right track, I think, in some terms of that. And after he started learning to do that, he started looking around and just learning more about processing and the coffees on his farm, and he noticed this one variety was a little different. And he asked his grandfather, and his grandfather, turned out he bought the seedlings back in the 80s when there was a rust leaf attack, and it's looked and kind of tasted a lot like the geisha variety, and it's maybe kind of mutated over the years, and the coffee comes out, the cherry's almost salmon-like, and so they call it a pink Bourbon.
Wow.
Yeah. So he then took these trees and seedlings and made more, and in 2013, I believe, planted 3 hectares of the 18-hectare farm with just this coffee.
Wow.
It's a joy to roast. It's so consistent in the screen size. It's just good and clean. One text from a friend was like, it's like you poured pink grapefruit juice in this
cup of coffee.
I can't
wait to have this.
Yeah, it's a good one. We're actually going to buy some. Allies imports it, so it's pretty much direct traded. We pay a premium on the coffee, and it actually goes directly to Rodrigo. He was at the show.
Oh, wow.
I didn't get a chance to meet him, but he also has a purple Caturra. I hope to procure some of that for this next year. Something I actually want to send to Matt at Barista Hustle for potential. superlative once we get the roastery up and running, because it's one of the few interesting things we could get in bulk to actually do, because I think he's doing a great thing with the superlatives.
Yeah, let me know if you need that.
Yeah.
Me to connect you guys.
So it's a good coffee, I think. Just nice and
Does he do any fermenting?
I don't think he does yet. It'd be great to
We should introduce him and Lucia.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was mind blowing. The stuff that she's doing is so fantastic.
I missed the whole class. I'm so sad. I think she said she has slides that I need to get.
Yeah, she does. I think I have a copy of them. If not,
yeah,
you guys can.
That was
can
one
sort
I
that
was
out.
really looking forward to.
She's so smart, and she is incredibly humble, and she knows what the fuck she's talking about. And it was really fun tasting the difference last week in Seattle between a lot of the, the fermented versus the not fermented stuff, the difference between the yeast fermentations and bacterial fermentations. We're going to do a fun thing with Elixir. There's the collaboration between Lucia, myself, and Christopher from Phoenix Coffee.
Phoenix Coffee, yeah.
We're going to offer an Elixir Trio, which is the same coffee, one that's just been wet processed, regular, and then one that's been fermented with bacteria and one that's been fermented with yeast. So you can taste all three of them. Everything's going to be the same water, same varietal, same roast curves, everything, same music, same everything, except that one will be a reference in the sense that it hasn't been fermented. One will be fermented with bacteria and one will be fermented with yeast.
It's going to be
imagine
cool.
how...
I've only heard, I think it's the next step.
Oh, absolutely.
For coffee in general. And I don't stay on top as much as I should about climate change and how it's deteriorating and how much available specialty coffee is going to be available in the future.
Yep.
Then I should be up on that more, but I feel like this could help save things in the long run.
I hope so. Like Lucia was a great thing that she was talking about. My background is in genetics, so this seemed really logical to me, but and I didn't see that people didn't understand that bacteria plays a role in coffee processing right from the time that it's on the tree. So naturally processed or dry processed coffee is still being fermented. So as it's like while it's out there in the sun drying,
right.
There's heat that's hitting it, and there's evaporation happening, and that evaporation feeds the bacteria, and then there's fermentation that's going on there. So it's even when it's on the tree, there are bugs on it, and by bugs I don't mean beetles and things like that create different green defects. I mean, like, there's bacteria in everything that we're doing, and then when you put it in a fermentation tank, all of those bugs contribute to the fermentation process, and that fermentation process then affects how that's being processed and how that's going to add flavor and detract flavor from the green.
Yeah, you can almost take a reading of, if you could, of the bacteria that's on it naturally and
Absolutely.
see what you need to do. I haven't seen her class, so maybe she says that.
But she's doing some incredible things with process engineering around how different farms and mills are able to eliminate a bunch of not sterile but unhygienic situations, or less than optimum hygiene, not necessarily unhygienic, but less than optimum hygiene situations, so that they aren't contributing bugs or more bugs that need to happen to the process. So she's just doing incredible work from that perspective of helping people just get the process right so that they get the desirable outcome that they want, where nothing's getting in the way.
Right, yeah.
Which is
great.
fun. It's a lot of fun as a scientist to watch somebody have that kind of input into our industry. It can only do really great things for what is coming.
That's great.
Yeah, fun times.
Yeah.
I think we should think about I think we should think about wrapping this up.
Okie doke. No technical difficulties.
No technical difficulties. We made it past 2 hours even. It was fantastic. Thank you, dude. This was fun.
Yes.
When can people check you out?
Where?
On the internet.
On the internet. SteadyStateRoasting.com. We're at 2562 State Street in Carlsbad. And at Steady State Roasting on Instagram.
And that's
it.
That's it.
That's it.
And
just come by and have a talk.
If anyone wants to email you,
Elliot at steadystateroasting.com. ELLIOT.
Peace.
Peace. Is that a thing we do? Peace.
Peace. Because we want more peace out there in the world.
Yeah, we do want more peace.
We
You're
absolutely
right.
need to have way more peace out there in the world. There's just not enough of it, especially in our industry.